Okay, we're gonna cancel it. Just to let you know.
But let's assume that. We do have a back 3/4 of the year. So. Yeah.
Okay, calling to order the July 17th meeting of the Historic Resources Commission here at 4, and at this time is 4:02. We are in 111 North Front Street, room 205. The next business meeting of the commission will be Thursday, August 7th at noon in room 205. That's also this room, 111 North Front Street. Next hearing of the commission, note typo on the agenda. The next hearing of the commission being Thursday, August 21st at 4 p.m. will be next door in 141 North Front Street. That is the ground floor conference room of the parking garage. So again, just for clarity and record, 141 North Front Street on the ground floor. Swearing in of the staff here present this evening. Jacqueline, can you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
You. And introduction of the commissioners here present, starting on my far right.
Cynthia Hunt.
Hyde Henry,
Joseph McCabe.
Stuart Gibbons.
Matt Leisure.
And are there any items for public forum this evening?
There are no items for public forum.
Okay, hearing none, we move on to approval of staff approvals. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Passes. Moving on to approval of the minutes from the last meeting, June 18th of 2025.
I'd like to make a motion to put them, yeah.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? On to applications for certificates of appropriateness this evening, starting off with continued application number 1585 South High Street. Jacqueline, what should we do this evening? Should
We
we
could,
maybe come to this individual?
yeah, we could switch, if there's more than one person here.
You're there?
Yeah, that's okay.
Internet?
Yeah, if you want to pick any of those open seats here, or depending on when you're on the agenda, you're welcome to kind of sit out in the conference room with more space.
Okay.
Gentlemen, have a seat. I'll have you each raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
Record.
Jack Polster, owner.
This application for 585 South High Street is a continued application that was last hearing in June. The proposal is to install a new letter sign at the cornice along the primary east facade, and those letters would match the cornice color. So the application was split at the June hearing and approved to reface the existing two-sided blade sign, replace an existing wall ends. So that has already been approved. Research and submit additional supporting information. The applicant has included and submitted additional information, similar styles or similar arrows and styles with this kind of wall signage. At the July business meeting, the commission had noted that the applicant has provided. The commissioners present know that the commission will need to discuss at the hearing whether the additional signage can be supported or if the signage falls under historicizing. The concerns being that this building historically have the signage and then the amount of signage that has already been exceeding from the maximum in the guidelines. The commission noted that they appreciate. So the current proposal is that it exceeds the amount of signage outlined in the guidelines, which is typically one projecting signs and either one wall sign or awning sign. And then skipping ahead here, without historic photos or documentation of the historic. If the signage as proposed is appropriate to the building and the surrounding neighborhood. Staff recommends that any new signage just be simple, non-illuminated, within the guideline size appropriate to the age and architecture of the building. The staff recommendation at this time is to recommend approval of applications 0012 There's a number there, 512 at 585 South High Street in the Brewery Historic District. Any no clarifications to be submitted to HPO staff for reviewing approval prior to issue. Staff recommendation is the City Code 316.13. And then the City Code 316.11. Duration and the guidelines regarding signage. And that will turn over to you.
Great. Thank you, Jacqueline, for your report. And just for clarification, again, Commission, we're only talking about that fascia sign at this point. After for responding, giving us additional, et cetera. You want to say any additional comments before we mark? About how you, Mrs. Marion, what your thoughts are. The staff has, heard our, at least.
I mean, you're probably the expert for the brewery district. I think the example is good.
Right.
Big and bold, it's red, This one is not the only sign, but to compensate
It's much quieter.
almost sort of a. So it's almost like, I don't think it'll like notice.
Is to make them red.
If you get rid of some of the others, I would be.
Well, maybe that's a discussion we should have.
Yeah.
Because we haven't started anything, so we wanted to know what's out there. We would really like to have something bigger, and I think it's interesting.
I am drawn to almost all of them by comparison.
Just for a point of clarity, though, I don't know that we can provide the previous approval.
Right.
But we don't necessarily need to put those signs up. So even if they are approved, if they're not going up, what we're saying is we haven't started anything because we want to know what we're able to do, where we are, and we're willing to negotiate on maybe reducing the wall sign. That was one of the things that we discussed before we jump into anything. We wanted to know, hey, if there's an opportunity here, if they say we can do the sign on the fascia, we reduce the wall sign, well, then that's a discussion that we would like to have, that Jeff wants to decide on, and then we would sort this out, how to move forward. I think the idea that we are interested in discussing that, frankly, I think would be great if they were
I think
red.
that we have to be cautious though not to be the designer and the applicant. I get approval and say, okay, you guys go figure out what you want to do right on there.
At the same time, I think we have to stop doing design work to find out
Right.
what's going to be allowed and what isn't. Otherwise, we're just spending a whole lot of time doing design work and not getting paid for it and not doing anything.
Right. I think part of the issue is, or at least what I'm hearing, that the large letters, I think will probably be approvable because of your documentation on it. However, precedence that I think we don't want to set is that you have maybe on the rarest of occasions, but because typically it's needs to be really a big case. But here you see both signs. It might be something that if the smaller wall sign, maybe that's just the address. And I could support that being bolder.
Could we also, because one of the things that the smaller wall sign says is what the offering is, so the description of us. Could we eliminate on the wall sign Polster, so that that's not repeated? But we obviously can't tell everyone what Polster sells,
Right.
on those letters above. Would we be able to, and it would obviously reduce the size quite a bit if we just had food service equipment and supplies on the wall. That's something that would be considered. We'd be happy to
But you
sort
kind of
of.
already have it on the hanging blade, though. I just feel like, between your hanging blade, what you've got on the wall, of these big letters on any of these buildings of the period where to track the automobile, right? The property was set back from the street, it's on a big box, the automobile going by, the age, oh, there's where I need to go destination wise. Tiny stuff that's around the word bolster is not gonna be seen by the automobile going by, but tell you what it is,
In what?
in all of the repetitive stuff, I would freak out. This is adding a layer on a building that you never had. While it's cool and funky, maybe for the district, they're dealing with a period building, and I feel not following the rationale of adding the frill. It's kind of like if we took a worker's cottage and failing village and then dolled it up with extra Victorian frills. Simpler. I worry about putting the extra letter in. That's all. Automobile is going to miss this building.
At the top.
For a rationale of
Right.
maybe why you would consider it. Open into the architecture, but what I started worrying about is that this sign then becomes woven into the architecture.
It's not, it never was, it's been. Difference.
Yeah.
That was. Didn't you?
I guess I appreciate the examples because I think that helps a lot with the design intent. I can understand the design rationale on the cornice. I think that is kind of a fun element. I think you could dial it up to the point of the examples, but I also kind of agree with having too many signs, like sign, the ball sign and that cornice sign. I think it's kind of repetitive. So I would side so that would be my thought of how to maybe simplify. I think if you had the cornice sign and the blade sign, you might be covering your bases. So.
You don't have to also. Also eliminating.
Also eliminating the blade sign and the wall sign.
Instead of making.
I think we could, if the applicant decided what they wanted to do, to remove very clearly from the packet,
Yeah.
very clearly describe condition disapproval.
I think you raise a good point, though, that wasn't on the building to begin with.
That's, I mean, that's your choice. It sounds like there's a choice to eliminate the wall of the letters on the facade. Now, they may be open to, instead of making those the same color as the building, which is honestly subtle. I think those would look pretty great in red. Or in black. I mean, then we want to look at contrasting, because otherwise it's like we have no sign. But I mean, with the sign that's perpendicular to the street, which is really pedestrian oriented, the same way that the Short North has blade signs that hang off the building that are lower and smaller. If those are black, then the letters up there in black would look sharp. Correct, and eliminate the little is an option that they're basically giving you. They're basically saying you can have the spacious sign.
I would.
Silvery color, it's fine. What they're basically saying is, right now you've got three. Don't think of the address numbers as a sign. You've got facial sign, wall sign,
Okay.
perpendicular sign.
So, okay, so what if we left the letters across the front on the side? Sign that hangs over the sidewalk, and instead of having our name and another sign that was repetitive right there on the wall. Like, food and service on that wall, again, because the only place.
Which is, I think if you definitely zoom in, that's what you have there now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It says-
Yeah, food serving and preparation for the night, it says, because that's what we sell. Very,
Go back to the.
it's not like it's not flashy, you know what I mean? It's very like. Almost is like art.
When I look at this photo, I see. I'm reading up here and I see this being a description. I don't. That's what this is. It's preparation, serving. That's true.
Well, I think that. We'll start Polster.
Yeah,
It says
I'm okay with
Polster big, Polster for pedestrian, and then that's just the description. And that's sort of, to me, also reads as a different kind of message than your name over and over and over again.
that.
I don't know that they're saying you're not allowed to make those, like the font match. You could probably do it as long as it's small and tidy. But you want to stay with the silver color.
Yeah.
Red signs on the ends.
No. No, you're not.
Now's our chance to discuss it. If you want red or red
No,
returns, now's the time to.
Like, believe it or not, like, I don't know. But, those, dark brick columns from the building were glazed with, bright red.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and this is,
During the period of historical significance.
so I
Probably
hope I
like
did,
how they built that hotel across the street.
yeah, the similar Claremont, that Claremont restaurant had a similar thing going on.
Exactly what you proposed.
Sounds like he wants to keep food service.
Food
Is it
prep.
exactly that? Or
Yes,
is it-
food prep, that's good, food preparation.
So leave the wall sign as is right now. No changes to the seeing in that photograph. And then he wants to do Polster letters in silver, on fascia. And then basically a reface of the existing call it, I guess, a projecting sign.
Actually, white, that's it.
We'll try to find a match, whatever that is, because it looks to me like.
It is,
like
it is, it is actually.
match, whatever that is, or it's gonna be like stainless.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love my examples of really bright, colorful sixties lettering, but if you guys are cool with silver, we're not trying to historicize it, but it's like, we want to make it functional. And it looks good. It's not necessarily trying to pull a fast one on anyone, but making improvements to it's not a bad thing. I think it's a good idea.
Very stated clearly for the record.
I think that's a win.
Because I just still not
Keep it on the wall.
Often, you're not allowed to put holster
Got it. I'm
on the
good with that.
wall. Have holster on the perpendicular line. Yes.
Guess I'll make a motion.
Let's
Oh,
figure out
we're
exactly.
discussing.
I was gonna say, I'm okay if you're going to make a motion, but please give me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I just want to make sure we understand. Okay, let's do this, and then you're like, oh, and then you say, okay. Where are we landing? Let's
I
get
think
this.
we're not changing,
Thanks. So let's just go over one more time.
I think we are in the thought,
Let's let the client.
I said there it is.
Thank you.
Want me to say it? Or you want to say it? Gonna keep the letters on fascia, silver, the ones that we want to do,
Proposed letters.
those letters
It's over, but to match the back.
to match the background,
Right,
which
So they are-
is some shade of gray.
Okay, okay.
13 and a half square feet.
And then we are refacing the projecting sign, which is perpendicular to the sidewalk, blade sign.
With the same design that's already been approved at previous meeting.
Correct.
yes.
And it's a reface. I mean, it's size isn't changing or anything.
Okay.
And then we're not,
Square feet,
I forget this.
14 and 14, two sides are.
We're not touching the food preparation, serving equipment sign that's there. That's just lettering. That's on the wall, not.
And it does not have holster.
It does not have upholstery on it now.
And you are officially are not going to construct that sign that we previously asked.
That's
Correct.
That's right.
Okay.
You can say in here that this whole thing is based on not building that. And then we're doing addresses on the caps in place of the red holster and red
Again,
address
that's not,
numbers.
those are the same address signs that we approved last.
Correct.
1.66 square feet.
Replacing the wall.
Also, we're not changing.
But I would like to add that we need a complete set of drawings with exactly what's going to be done. How it's going to look and scale and size, so we can do that. That's conditional in addition to the color that you're actually going to. That's it.
I want to say something because I just want to be on the same page with you guys. So, as far as it goes, the point of the color of it, in my mind, I don't want to not tell you something now. There's real aluminum trim all over that. Okay. It's really more of a, it's a very light gray or like a whitish light gray in there, but the letters, in my mind, were gonna match. I was all the aluminum trim. Okay, we'll
As long
leave,
as it's submitted.
yeah, okay, and the color panels as they are when built will remain the same. Appreciate that. Thank you.
What would your motion, you said aluminum?
All right, then, okay.
All right.
Jacqueline, is there any further clarification?
No, I didn't clear.
And for my only clarification point, will then applicant submit anything yet to staff and follow up?
Jack,
On whatever it is, if you're doing aluminum, real aluminum, brushed. Whatever.
None, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Criticism. Good word, so.
We're gonna, we can speak to.
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Huge paper business. Okay.
Thank you.
Guys. Look forward to seeing you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Moving on to application number 2-1091 South High.
Number two did let us know they're asking to withdraw for this month in anticipation.
Okay, is there a motion to continue? None, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstention, motion. On to new applications, 1406 Brighton Road. Before you sit down, I'll have you both raise your right hand. Tell the truth in your testimony before commission this evening. State your full names and association with the property for record.
Leslie Vogel, co-owner.
Constantine Angelos.
This application for 1406 Brighton Road is proposing to replace asphalt shingle roofing with new asphalt. This is on the agenda because the color is not technically on the rather than the stone gray color from the approved roofing shingles list. At the July business meeting, the committee the commissioners present noted that the proposed color and the color on the approved list appear they support as a test case. So in response to the commission feedback, the applicant basically in summary noted that they would try to it looks like we've got some samples here today. Recommendation is to recommend approval application CDA 25 9 at 1406 Brighton Road in the Brighton Road Historic District with the following conditions, and that is that the application is approved as a test case. The staff recommendation is the city code rule 6.11 standards of alteration, and then the guidelines regarding roofing materials.
Thank you for bringing this in.
This is another approved list sample that, before we found the right pattern, we had. So we had looked at this first, and then we saw this. And so this is the approved color, this is the color that we want to do, because it just looks a little bit more oxidation, kind of a little bit more red. And so, but they're very, very similar.
Why those both aren't on the list? Same company, the same brand, the same everything.
Well, I actually emailed you as all the research I did on it with every product line. 'Cause there's a lot of stuff not on the, on the list, and the problem there is that that stuff's discontinued because it's a 2015 list. And like, this right here, because it's limited supply, ends up being almost as expensive as this. And it's about half the value of material, so the list kind of needs updated. I mean, I sent all that stuff too, because we looked at everything. Just trying to be like, what did this architect want? We can't find any old pictures of the house, like what?
Yeah, I have no problem.
I have no problem actually approving it, and I would love to get a follow-up picture from you when it's done.
All historic commissions. Case come before them, the case has to be successful. Commissions agree that it goes on the list.
That's right. Yeah, Windows is another one.
The thing too on that list is that, you've got the brand, or they have the brand. And then they have, the product line, and then they have, where it's dimensional. But a lot of those don't exist. You know, is in two of those product brands, there's no more 3 tabs. One Certainty has 4 product lines that emulate slate. One of them is even the larger, like Belmont kind of slate that I see on Brighton. So that was a picture thing. Well, I actually even said that, like, because we're, if you need help with that, hit me up, because I have all these stories. We get into our house.
Appreciate the research.
I think that's very good. This is a test case.
POA 25659.
Thank you, as a test case.
Follow-up would be great if you could do.
I do have one, should you give me outbuildings or?
No, we used to have a. Haven't really updated the gas lines. We don't have a proper carriage house. Is that what you're asking? Mhm. It was up on the land.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention.
Awesome.
This, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Got it.
It's a number of board papers are.
So you're.
If you each do, hopefully we can speak.
Probably.
Okay, whomever might be speaking today, I need you to stand and raise your You swear to tell the truth in your testimony for permission seeking.
Yes.
If you could state your property correct.
Joshua Whitney Zing, landscaper.
Catherine Diaz, employee,
Of,
Ohio Environmental Council.
south elevation with various new shrubs and herbaceous plants, with submitted site plan. The applicant does note that the existing trees are to remain. They would also like to propose the barnstone sandstone foundation blocks and add river rock and gold dust gravel and limestone pavers as a border, so that asked if the applicant could color or hatch up where the gold is proposed and gray out or in some way indicate existing landscape. In response to business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted a revised. And so in general, the recommendation is to recommend approval application COA 25006725556 East Town Street with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HPO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of the certificate. The staff recommendation is the city code 6.13 standards for site improvements within the guidelines regarding landscaping and site improvements.
Is there anything the applicant would like to add at this time? It's a very elaborate point.
The plantings, and law office next door, they're block the sign.
That was the sign for what used to be in 556. So that is no longer relevant, and we were gonna remove
Okay.
that.
Okay, so that sign's no longer there.
It won't be,
You're going to be removing that.
yes,
Okay, gotcha. Oh, this was the law office.
right,
Okay, I thought it was next door.
nope.
I would love if the applicant, maybe as a condition on this. Sign as well.
One in news. So they just remove,
We're gonna do new signage, but we would do an application process at that time.
okay.
But this sign's gonna be removed now.
Correct.
So we can add this to this application, otherwise
Correct.
permit to get it removed. What about the fence? Is the fence being removed?
No,
Those in the bottom corner.
Was there-
Questions, as long as you're keeping the fence as containment,
Mhm.
when you do the landscape, as long as it's a pretty intense planting plan, but I think that could look provides that frame and makes sense. Or is it next door?
no, that's next door.
It hangs over there.
Yeah.
Keep losing my agenda here, but I'll pull it. All right. Make motion. COA 500672-556. The sign will be removed. That's part of your function.
There's a
Second.
having a motion of this. I would just like to further clarify your motion that the sign. How long does that happen?
Yes, yeah.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstention. Number 5, 1687 Brighton Road. We could both stay standing for a second, raise your right hands. Or tell the truth in your testimony for permission to speak. Full name and association with property.
I am Dan Rivera. I'm the general contractor.
Eric Maxwell, designer of the drawings.
Application for 1687 Brighton Road. The proposal has recently been updated. If you included that update in the application materials, but it was in the grid section to create a new door opening. But in general, the application is to remove an existing first floor door at the rear or south elevation and to alter that door opening and install a salvaged vinyl window from the original location. To replace outer layer of wood siding at the rear south elevation and install new hardy siding. To install new vertical hardy siding at the foundation area with plywood and to replace wood trim area at the rear or south elevation. Or railing and install a new aluminum railing system and new decking and stairs. So at the business meeting, the proposed that kids or sleeping porches could be added as part of the construction, and that this appears to be the case. But that this sleeping porch looks to have been substantially altered over the years. The existing door is present where a recessed covered porch probably would have been, for example. The commissioners present note that they would not be able to support moving the unimproved final window where the existing door is currently. Due to the heavy alterations to this volume, the commissioners noted they could generally support the reorganization of the wood volume or sleeping porch with this that's so heavily altered, and then the current configuration is organized as a result. The commissioners present noted that they could support replacement of the siding due to the condition, but that any profile and lack of exposure matching trims, and that any new siding about the treated plywood being brought all the way to the ground, that asked if it was code compliant or restrict issues. The commissioners present know that they are not able to support converting the window and the brick to the door without really compelling reason to alter these. Versatile and the location is less primary than the material of the facade and the main volume of the home. The application better to remain, but the submitted photos show that the existing. That recommendation is to recommend continuing application COA 25-00529. To allow the applicant time to revise the application to better meet city code. Staff recommendation is the city code 301. Guidelines regarding wood siding, guideline amendments regarding exterior siding, guidelines regarding windows, and then the guideline amendments regarding windows.
So we have that staff report, but we do have updated drawings sent in there. So when summarizing, maybe the applicant can bring us up to speed with that sort of thing. Tell us what is different on it.
Yeah.
If you need to point to a screen, feel free to point to a screen.
Okay, thank you. Sure. So after hearing the comments from the business meeting, we wanted to try to quickly get some revisions to the drawings in front of you. We have changed the siding of this two-story structure to match this existing siding on the third floor gable end, and it's not shown, but on the side there is a bump out box bay that also has a very narrow shiplap siding. So the goal would be to match that siding on the back here on all three sides.
And that being the orange.
Yes, yes, I brought a picture of it and show you. Yeah, so it's this, it's the narrower stuff, yeah, the narrower siding. Uh, Changed all the trims to 5/4 trim, to be appropriate with shadow lines, wood, material smooth. One thing that we did change, after hearing the comments, from the commission's meeting was replacing all 3 windows on the back of this. They're all vinyl. I think the 2 up above are more of a metal type window, a replacement window. This house has had all the windows replaced a few years ago, with Marvin clad ultimates. So we're proposing to match the windows that were replaced in the rest of the house with these 3 windows on the back so that we get a nice uniform. Rather than leave those 2 windows above, we felt like it would be nice and clean with the rest of the house. Let's see, we're proposing to do all new soffits and fascias. One thing we did omit, and just want to point out, we did remove the gutter on the banding at the midpoint. I'm not sure how the commission will feel about that, but it really is not doing anything for us, water management wise. So we did remove that. We left the banding and the cap, and we'll leave all that, but we're going to remove the gutter. The expense of the gutter from that section was the thought on the drawings.
So it's the gutter in the middle there, right?
Yeah, this gutter right here, yeah.
The guess was that they just built the first story. And then when they did the second, just left the.
And you can see the narrow siding here on this side as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
We determined that they've at least built onto this 3 times based on our exploration of the project.
Well, just the only change. Comments about not cutting into the historic brick, so we're no. That alteration on the second floor near the top of the fire escape to change the window to a doorway, so we're not proposing the.
So then is on the approved list.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Light fixture 2 already.
Sure, if I don't think we gave you a sheet on that.
Perhaps if there's any consideration for the approval, that could move staff maybe, or.
That'd be great one. Like exterior.
We're proposing to get rid of the floodlight and just do a more traditional kind of lantern style. I did not pull a light fixture, no. More than happy to work with Jacqueline on that to make sure that it's appropriate.
Firing storm.
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, we might save it, but we're not going to put it back there. Yes, absolutely. The client really is doing a lot of amazing work on the interior, bringing it all back to its original beauty. So that's where this project started. And then as we started to see the back, we felt like we should really get that thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really, it's gonna be a real improvement.
I'm full with the pruning, I would just suggest.
I'd like to make a motion for COA 2500529. 7 Brighton Road to be approved. As exception of removing the brick and stone for the door entrance, but also to include cut sheets on light fixtures and a full schedule.
Make a motion in a second, just for further. officially provide drawing. That they were in the packet, but the staff, just for clarity and record, the staff report did not.
That was my fault for not getting.
We'll let it slide this time.
Thanks. Yes, we're gonna match what's there. Yeah, I printed a picture, tape measure. We're gonna match that.
Okay.
I don't know if you need a copy, or I can submit a copy in the portal if you want to see that.
That's fine, or I can also take.
No, I don't. We're just trying to figure out what that siding.
I can address that in the motion. I'd like to also address that the wood siding on the rear south elevation is new. Are you siding with a 4-inch?
Right, then. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Passes.
Great, thank you, appreciate you all very much.
On to case number 6, 1036. Which project?
I think we're the last one, 1708 Brighton.
Could you ask them if they might mind letting something like I go? I hate to hold you guys captive.
It's all right.
We're learning a lot.
I feel bad because
They went-
Front Street has.
Well, but that may take substantially longer.
Thank you. They're agreeable, thank you.
Yeah, they have to agree with it, but they're okay. Were they amenable?
Yes.
Yeah, great. If you guys want to put that on for here. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
I did.
You each state your full name and association with the property for record.
Holly Bruns, owner. It was Williams before.
Matt Burns, owner. It is the last one, conceptual.
Thank you. Okay. Application for 1708 Brighton Road is a conceptual application. The proposal alter an existing window at the front or south elevation to add a door and side lights. Have a full width porch to be installed at that same front elevation. So this property includes a 19th century to American horse-fair home and a contemporary garage approved in 2023. Just so a note, exterior painting does appear to have been undertaken without approval in 2023, including painting stone masonry sills. So the recommendation there is that the stone be colored to match the original masonry color as closely as possible. At the July business meeting, the commission noted that they appreciate the application. The commission asked if the divided light transom at the top part of the existing window will be retained. Portion appears to be original. Columns against the building wall, pilasters rather than full columns. The applicant's example photos provide a good visual example, and the shadow lines or ghosting of the original pilasters can be seen in the partial library. The commission noted the understanding that the new pilasters will need to be a bit code requirements as long as they have a flat side that meets the building wall. So feedback that utilized by the applicant. Further refined proposal for review is required. The general basis for the staff recommendation is the city code 3.2 standards for alteration, and then the guidelines regarding.
First of all, I have to say, I wish we got most conceptual packages that for spending the time on the detail and effort. I think we should go through this. Sense that this house had a porch. Clearly the photo, just go right to the the library photo. 'Cause I think that's the most telling photo.
Yeah, whoever found that, thank you. I'm
Uh,
like,
Yeah.
how you found it, that was awesome.
We know there was a pilaster against the brick.
Mhm.
It's basically like if you took your column, you kind of cut it in half and push it against the wall.
Okay.
It's a pilaster versus freestanding column. There's no space behind.
You can feel it ghosting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's where it just would have been flat faced up against the wall.
Okay.
So you have a proposal for columns, just flat face those and push them against the wall.
Okay.
And then secondarily is your transom looks like it's
Yes.
still the original transom.
Yes.
Believe it.
And I think you had a pair of just double doors rather than a
That
single
is a
side.
door.
If you can go back to, I mean, I would advocate you can go back to double doors. That's a decision you have. Probably how to design. You've got the precedent right there. That tells us what was there.
I think we're okay with that. The one door with two side lights was, from my measuring, which isn't great. Like, I don't think I could. Might work better in.
You may need to pair it, right, you may need to tweak them a bit, but you can see halfway through that third upper panel of glass.
Yeah.
That's heavy milk.
Is there,
Propose a door, whether, now this may have to be a custom door of some sort with.
okay.
We would leave staff on submitting that as a.
Typically, the standard,
Weird. Anything weird.
And,
I don't want anything that like good.
Not-
not if I don't,
I mean,
Maybe
the
not
standard
vinyl.
for front doors is that they must be wood. So that's the standard for just the primary elevation.
And in fact, we might be able to find some, an architectural salvage.
Although given that the original conceptual design was pretty tastefully done. Again, kudos for doing this.
If you take your measurements, there are some really good places.
I mean, I feel like the whole design here is pretty darn appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Saying it is,
I
I'm just
think,
saying.
I think you're there, you know, other than. Yeah, and, little. Yeah, that photograph is totally convincing. I mean,
And when we submit like our final packet for action, we also have to have like the, we would be adding the sign.
That would be great,
Okay.
gate samples, any of those things.
Okay.
But it's definitely important. As much as you
Why
can
don't you got that?
include now, it's better. If you want to come
Okay.
back and piecemeal it, you can piecemeal, it just takes time to. If you're submitting at this level, we already know that you're a pretty high quality applicant. If you submit everything, this is.
Right.
We're trying,
It's
we're
really-
trying.
It's helped us with the garage like a year and a half ago, so this is phase 2.
Timing,
Well, excellent.
depends on when you want to do things. If you break it ready for the porch, then
So our contractor is ready for the porch,
so
so.
break it up, say, okay.
Okay.
oh, When you're ready, the final drawings are.
So
Okay,
since they're ready for the porch, I'm gonna throw out a wild idea here, which is to have them come back with the door in the opening.
Okay.
Okay,
These are really,
could we,
Thank you.
could we approve the porch right now with with them following up with submission of the modification of columns, the pilasters
And.
I'm okay with that.
And-
and materials,
Yeah.
colors. to that.
right, and then we just have to prove and
So let me come back on what you're doing in the opening.
okay,
And with modified drawings.
Okay.
Your material.
and-
Your drawings would be, you know, shop drawings, but.
This
So
seems
you just
pretty
need,
close.
yeah, you just need that dimensions and.
Okay.
It's, it's good things.
So
Color.
I feel comfortable.
I just want to clarify for the material of the porch, is this intended to be wood? Other sort of material being used?
I think what we would like to do, and we'll change our drawing appropriately, is the bottom, instead of having, like the wood slats at the bottom, to do actually like a cement block and do cement instead of like a wood slat floor, but to keep the railings and everything would still be wood. There's one across the street from us that is like the block.
we got a different contractor and the pricing came back better than that, so we wanted to do that instead.
Yeah.
Acceptable.
Yeah, you know, maybe walking back my comment open. Why don't you decide on what you're gonna do on some of these things?
Yes.
I think you're on the right.
Okay.
You're pretty close. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think getting your drawings updated and get final is gonna be that far off.
And if you're gonna try and do something.
Masonry with stone veneer, I think that's important, so
Yeah.
just making sure we're,
On the same page.
yeah.
It really should match the sandstone as much as possible.
Yes.
Bright Road is famous for a lot of its sandstone porches.
Yeah.
No, this is not a cement block.
If it has
If it
the
has the veneer.
veneer over top of it or no?
I mean, you might have a CMU 4 with a sandstone facing put on it, but you're to match. And by the way, the local stone companies can provide sandstone match. That's quite this.
Yeah, the detailing that is important as well, so.
Yeah, I still have the, cut sheet from when we did our garage.
Yep.
That was approved, so I do have that, and I would say we don't have it on there, but we would probably put like a similar lantern lighting that we did on
I
our.
was gonna say, I would think that this has been flat roof, a lot of the Brighton Road porches are flat roof with very minimal pitch. But then, yeah, getting to your next stage should be pretty easy, but we should be at.
So no staff approval.
What do you mean by do you want to touch on the paint for the stone?
Like they were painted. Or my experience is that you really can't get it off once it's been painted.
It's match your original masonry color.
Do you want to change that to the Benjamin Moore wrought iron or what goes in?
Wrought iron.
Okay.
Bring a paint sample. I think bringing a paint sample of what it was.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, there was.
That helps it.
Try to make it look more. Right, more like the original cells material.
Or like this one. No, you were thinking. Doesn't have to be that exact.
You're well on your way.
Great,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for, go ahead.
Yeah, before everybody sits down, we get. You each swear to tell the truth and just know your word.
I do.
Each state your full name and association with property.
David Maleka, architect.
Greg Moncrief, attorney.
Thank you. And you have to speak. By the way, thank you very much for letting that set over the porch.
I guess that would be the same thing with us.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want you to have the development syndrome.
Well, that's a good agenda this month, so. Quick.
This application is for 1036 South Front Street. So this application is submitted for action review. The LA building, new construction, including the 6-story apartment building and then first floor or partial first floor parking garage. Materials in general include vinyl windows, cement panel, and fiber cement panel siding, and then a concrete tile amenity terrace. So the July business meeting, the commission noted that they appreciate the ground floor detailing that has been developed. 5 elevations without balconies or material transition. The commission noted that the north elevation faces a number of properties, including several residences that comments appreciate the first 130 north. The jail rail and the parking garage. The commission asked if the applicant could better address the remainder of the north elevation into first. The commission noted less concern. Spec information, especially submitted for action review. Some examples are being the East Town Street project came through. There's a good comprehensive package, or when the Rockbridge Market was reviewed, the similar level. Commission asked that the articulation is reflected in the site. Some pilasters and other detailing and renovations, the color set. Or materials and details such as handrail details, given that there are a lot of companies, there is a lot of masonry on what, some information on what the heads are, or there's detail out. It looks to be good brick detailing of what's in the van section, etc. The commission asked for more detail about the amenity deck and see the silhouetted section and see the corner sign. I did recall the applicant noting that the grade of the garage is not achievable. In that application. The commissioner was not seeing that amount of grade change and asked if the parking maximizing parking capacity. The commission asked to clarify variance number 2, which is the variance for requiring active interior space on the ground floor for a minimum depth of 12 feet. Asked if that variance is a requirement just for the side street. Is aware that this would not be needed for units, amenities, lot, or that the applicant has. The commissioners present know that variance number 3 revision. I have concerns regarding the first variance as long as the north elevation is addressed. Such signage that might affect the building architecture. Across the business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted a canopy plan and section drawings of the canopy. Grounds and fencing, vinyl windows, party lamp siding, and the thin brick. The applicant may need more time to submit updated site. Asked for, and the section plan of the amenity text with the building, and then window selection from the approved windows list, and then drawings for any proposed doors, light fixtures, trim details, siding, landscaping, or signage if applicable. And then the applicant may need more time to address the remainder of the north elevation that will face the story with the house on the corner there, and then the south elevation facing that. So in general, the physical scale and scale of size of the elevation should be compatible to existing contributing properties without overwhelming them, using set-offs. Properties. Application for the staff recommendation is to recommend continuing application CUA 2500529 at 1036 South Front Street to allow health guidelines addressing the north and south primary elevations and submit for Title 34A 10.04 the city code 3016.12 standards for new construction. And I think there might be one for, here we go. And then just guidelines regarding windows. On the last page here. Here we go. 6.14 standards for demolition. And then I think that's all I look at.
Applicants might say, I don't think like wants their meeting that's changed.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, I'll lead off. Dave's gonna do most of the heavy lifting for you, but I figured we. Requesting your approval of really 3 items here, one being a recommendation for the variances that were requested. Requesting approval of the demolition of the existing building and for some background, once again, this is about a 0.6 acre urban lot. It is surrounded on all 4 sides by right of way. This property was originally platted in residential subdivision, particularly 30-foot wide lots, and for about 70 years it functioned as a in the night constructed there, which is a small commercial structure with a fairly large surface parking lot. Our goal with this development really is twofold. One, Columbus has a new zoning code which calls for density, particularly for housing, to help. Really to bring it back to the roots of this area and for in the Brewery District Plan. The plan identified this specific area where north of Greenlawn as an area that has lost substantial character, namely by raising auto-oriented commercial lots with large surface parking. So I think we've addressed that with this development, which is a 6-story residential. A year ago, this property was zoned and manufacturing with a. So for about 100 property was permitted for significantly more intense uses and a very similar height. And once again, it's in line with the new code and the direction of the city as far as units and like that. And I just want to reiterate that we put a lot of work into trying to activate Front Street. This is going to add units on the ground floor. It's going to move 2 curb cuts on Front Street. It'll add sidewalk on Deschler. That's part. That's what the city has required. And where to put this access, both with this commission and the city. Not interfere with residential and make sense for the.
Thank you. Yes, based on, your last comments, we tried to really address, all the issues that really came up. Specifically, one of the ideas was they thought maybe the building was a bit imposing and dark. So, we've taken to kind of lighten the building up in general and use lighter materials and lighter color of brick. We've also broken down some of the window massings on the stair tower. We've added mullions into that to kind of make it more residential in scale. Spent a lot of time articulating the ground floor. We've raised the floor level of those units up. Talking up a set of steps to get into the 7 unit ground floor and also soften those windows, make them more residential. Type window with a transom over top of them. Also, on the courtyard that's on the upper floor, I've added another, bump out into the facade to try to create a little bit more depth and movement inside that courtyard. So you're seeing that tower that, was added. On the side, I know you guys initially, you talked about how flat that was, so we have taken the sides and articulated by pushing and pulling that facade. So it's not one big plane anymore, it's three, individual. And added Juliet balconies to try to kind of add another. There were comments about the ground floor and the grills on those ground floors. Again, we have an open garage down there, so we do need to have as much opening as we can. But I think what we're proposing is something basically very similar to what we did at the Topiary Park building and that articulation, which is more of a fence design and has design to it. And I think if we part of our submission, that actually I think softens that some of that look up of this being a jail-like thing. I think it adds that sense of the grading of the site itself. So there's actually three things kind of happening with the garage. So the garage again is the more we've moved the access to the grade differential between Front Street and the back of the site. So we're trying to balance a bunch of things out. The entry currently is on Front Street, so that's the grade that we're trying to hit for everything. It would be best if that garage could be at that in that garage. So we're trying to keep that pushed down, but we understand we're definitely going to have some ramping or something kind of articulating between the two because, or again, the access moves east, higher that grade differential is. And so we're trying to compress the garage as much as we can, and compressing it right now, we're about two and a half out of the ground, in the ground, of the garage, and we're coming down into it to try to have minimize that differential between the lobby and the garage itself. So those are sort of the things that are happening with that. Also, what we notice is the right of way on Redbud Alley is wider, so turning radiuses are a bit easier to do. The alley is very tight for access. And if we come off the alley, we would lose, I think, about 4 spaces in the parking garage. So again, trying to maximize the parking. So there's multiple reasons why we think that coming off Redbud is the right way. The other thing was mentioned about windows themselves. We are proposing the same window that we used at the Tokyo. Same molding and details that were on that you guys approved when we. So I do have some of these.
The references to is
It's okay.
These pictures, yeah. Great.
So what are you?
So the bottom one is the grills, the articulation of the fencing that was input for the garage. And the upper one is just showing sort of the windows that we did use for this. Custom colored for the, things for that. Oh, the other comment was, there was a comment about hardy siding. It's really hardy panels. Lap siding or.
Okay, first up, we'll have Alyssa Evans.
Hi, that's me.
You want to come up here, you can have the floor and
That's great. I did send you a presentation. A PDF.
Yes, so we forward that to the commission and the
Okay.
applicant. We're not able to, stuff or things on the screen that are not like part of the application.
Sure,
But
that's
everyone has.
Has it, everybody's seen it? Cool. So my name is Alyssa Evans and I live right on the north side of where this building is planned to be constructed. And I wanted to show everybody what the proposed apartment was going to look like next to all the other buildings within block. Because in the meeting last time, you stated actually that the district code says that the height viewed from the street as well as physical size and scale should be compatible to existing contributing properties without overwhelming. I know there was some conversation around the subjectivity of this metric, but I really think that most people would agree that a building that's 2 and 3 times taller than its direct neighbors is overwhelming and is incompatible. I know that everybody here is deeply invested in the beauty of our community, and as a fellow creative, I can recognize that it's the brief that isn't right. He's doing his best to fit a big giant tag into a very small hall, and it doesn't fit within the neighborhood. We're all attracted to beautiful cities like Paris and Florence specifically because they have taken seriously, and they are protecting the aesthetic value of their communities and keeping their neighborhoods for the benefit of residents and pedestrians. That's why I think this plan should be altered to something more compatible. The example that I showed at the end, even the Pizzuti project in German Village did a better job of integrating the facades that face the neighbors and the village home. It looks like houses or condos rather than a giant box. And the stair stepping that it does is like, doesn't block the south facing sunlight to these houses in the same way that this building will. You can't really tell if it's 5 stories tall or whatever. This is very obvious. I know that another thing is I want to talk about is Deschler Avenue. He said that there would be a sidewalk there, but in the diagrams that were shown on this, there is no sidewalk. It is an important street with numerous historical homes, and the request to allow the garage to be built 0 feet from the street without a sidewalk. In the diagram, it does show bushes. It's going to eliminate the potential for an enjoyable pedestrian experience. We don't have a sidewalk there now, and shouldn't the development for the future be an improvement? It's going to make it feel like an alley.
I will second speaker today. Celeste, what is your last name? Padu, okay.
So I'm Celeste. I'm also a neighbor of the Brewery District. I live near like 1.5 block back from Deschler and Wall Street. I was just very concerned when I heard about this. I'm not great. Really concerned about the height of this building. It's this like monster building being built near us. I actually really love the current architectural style of the building that we have there. I know there's a lot of issues with that building, but just having this like 6-story tall building and our like really nice intimidating. I feel like it's really shadow a lot of the light. It's really going to cut off a lot of that southern light that we have in our neighborhood, and I'm just like feel like it's out and just kind of be this intense building and but otherwise this feels like a very calming building. I'm not an architectural expert, but just 6 stories just feels way too high considering the building is close to it feel like 2 stories high. So I'm also really concerned about the parking situation. Parking 2 units. I don't know what the science to that is, but I feel like every single spot on the street is now going to be covered in cars that live in this building that are now going to start parking illegally on the side streets or just parking on Front Street and taking up every single space there, and expanding into all the nearby streets. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the recent construction that was done, on the bridge of Whittier going over the railroad tracks, but that closed part of Front Street and that caused so much traffic to come through on Wall Street. We had a lot of cats die, in that neighborhood, which is really sad. So I'm just really worried that adding in this many more units here is just gonna cause a ton more traffic on these tiny little cobblestone alleyways that are definitely not made for this many cars. So I am all for housing. I just feel like we need to dial back. Or 6 stories. All these not available parking spaces.
Briggs by the speaker.
Sure, yeah, one thing was the sidewalk was a great comment. I talked to our engineer and he verified that there will be a sidewalk on Deschler. That's required by the city, which matches what's across the street, so that will be added for landscaping from the building. So it will be a part of the development.
That's across the street.
There's sidewalk on the other side of Deschler.
How wide is that? Side?
And that will be part of your project.
Yes.
So the construction, the sidewalk, trees, whatever goes in that, that would be part of the project.
Yeah, we would have to construct the sidewalk, and they're also requiring, they haven't really said what, but improvements to the alley to the east.
Okay.
As part of this.
I think that's important to make its way.
And otherwise, I think going back to, there's been a lot of talk about Brewery District being a non-homogeneous area, and I think part of that is a mixture of height. Taller buildings and mixing and matching. I know Joan Range was next to some shorter buildings as well. And this is a property that it's urban infill. It's surrounded on all sides by right of way, so you've got a little bit of a natural buffer. Property, the zoning calls for this height. It does not call for this type of height on Livingston Avenue. That's why that's a smaller project. Downtown, there's a demand for this many units and this type of height. Area more so than what's there now. Anything else on the parking? Once again, that was changed with the zoning code. So it's 51 spaces right now for 106 units is what we have.
What I'd like to do is probably open it up to members of the commission here. Organized fashion, maybe you spoke for comments. I know you were you were actually requesting an official vote.
Correct.
So, and by the way, that'd be approval. That would be approval of the design and recommendation of.
We have no special term. Are not missing for the staff report that we would at this point. But it's.
Yeah, I guess we can go through that. It's my understanding, I think we brought everything to the table to meet requirements. I think anything else would be, and if need be, things like lighting and signage, we'd be happy to come back at a later time to review. Yes.
Yeah, things like doors. So if we have a speak though, that has required materials that have to be submitted. So there's a couple of things. Those are for just a sign that's up to the commission.
So I'm familiar with zoning. Um, eloquently, I think it's, thank you. Parking, but I think I'm less of a case for the zoning. The applicant is responding to. I would bring to the attention, well, let me say this, I appreciate the changes in you. I can. My principal sort of fact that we as commission not provided with that would be helpful. For example, permeability of no. Helpful for the city to be able to say, look, this director, everyone just sit around this. I personally would feel a lot better if we could carve this thing back. Of course, that's, and because I think it's the right thing for the right thing. Actually read it out in Columbus Business Review, I don't have insight. They're the active conversations about 4 stories, and they're really they struggle to get to 4. So I feel like we shouldn't give away for an area of district that I think has more scale.
Okay.
So we
I think the earlier with the been up to the site a couple of times, just kind of looking at it and going, what is this going to look like? Yeah, because parking, I certainly think that it would be nice to have more parking. To us to totally cool. Um, North elevation, and that's the one that and back in the middle, freestanding. Walk on Deschler,
Uh, Well, I think we get a lot of interaction from neighbors, a lot of letters, but I think this is probably what we're seeing. The historic. As the city continues to. Walking through, a bit of what we have today. I'm glad to see the changes that are being made. I think a lot of my conceptual concerns are gone, and I'm there on several levels. But, you know, I'll walk through it right now. I'm not there completely on your documentation yet, so all of that documentation that really says this is approval, and it's a set of drawings that cohesively go or to read it, to support. You know, what I want to make sure I see is, you know, you've got a great site plan, for example, with the color on it, but yet it's different than what is on the paper from Ferris in your zoning application. One's a rectangle, one actually has articulation. You know, it's just as landscaping, and it's updated to show the Deshler sidewalk. It'd be great to see that ripple all the way through the whole package, so it's true. And it's for that's a box for us and anybody younger in the future. And really actually accurately reflects the commitments being made that then get misinterpreted. Thank you for adding things like balconies, articulating the front facade. Sides of the building. I think those are all good things. For me, the massing and the height, you know, I drive by a project that's New Avenue and sits in the middle of the block, and it is a newer like this, except for it's on a retail core and retail bottom. And it doesn't actually offend me as much as I thought. You know, I didn't know how to feel about it, but recently I looked at that, and this is very similar height proportion of that building. Up at Front and Whittier, we have a historic 5-story building that sits right next to 2 structure in the district, and it just kind of pops up right there, and it's got 2-story homes all around it. So it is. I think if this district were faced with this building in 1928 like that, you may have seen something that maybe had more 1920s detailing on it, but I don't know that they would have arrived at anything much different in some ways. Massing, just knowing apartment construction, when you look at some of the other buildings around town from the 20s and 30s, they may come up with a U-shape extruded units. When I go back to, again, like the documentation factor, you know, again, I love the picture. You know, this was a very successful project. Dave, you did a very good package for this project. But when we talk about this kind of detailing on the garage grills, I want to see that in the drawings. I just don't want a picture. See what you're doing, because if you're articulating like that, which is really nice, and it was executed nice, and I've been by this building, I mean, I've actually been a long time. Hey, go check out this building, it fits that really well, and historic district of the new build. But the detailing level here is not, well, we have renderings, we don't have hardline drawings to go with it. I just want to make sure that, you know, the kinds of detailings, trims, and anything you're doing or proposing really truly is reflected beyond just the rendering. Renderings, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of great renderings that never look like the building's built. And so package that we can vote on, or at least I can support. I don't know how my other colleagues will vote. Say, hey, this is truly your commitment, and they're. You know, I want to know, you know, there's a lot of, it looks like vertical batten or something that goes with the panels. About that, I'd like to know more about, you know, what the articulation is on like horizontal bands and what they are compared to corners. Coming up with a set of details that are truly can be judged by a field inspector and say, aha, yeah, they actually built it. That's for me what's lacking on this proposal at this time. Additionally, it's like, you know, North Market, I was the one who made that comment in the business meeting. A lot of details about how they were doing brick details and auxiliary courses, or even like these horizontal bands here on the brick. What are those? you know, in the historic districts, I think we have a very for making sure that applicants provide us all of the details so that, again, an application can be judged in the field once it executed as the applicant. And it's a district that hopefully is here still in 100 years, and when the building comes through again for restoration, it'd be great to say, aha, this is what they did, this is what they replicate, repair, et cetera. So I just want to treat this fairly like we would treat any other where it just needs more details. And actually, I'm there. I've loved the things you've done. I've loved the improvements. I am, I'm okay with the reduction in parking and the variances that are being. I just want to make sure again accurately that the commitment for the full application, if indeed your actual estimates. If I were to vote tonight, I would vote differently than if I had a full pack.
The community and not people that have, of course, is a really important part to understand the complexity and the need of housing as well. I believe in this case. Count all the wonderful people that come in and talk about the details of what this massing. I think there are positive sides to this too. Think about the additional type of additional strength within that community, people that are going to be friends, people that are going to make this within that area. Part of the relationship to where we started and where we are with the structure, we are night and day. Incredible. We've done a great job of listening and making change. Articulation of breaking up the massing, the bump outs, pull ins, changes, colors. Starting to pull together a lot of everything you've heard from the community, from us, from keeping this from looking like a big box to now coming into something that's more elegant, something that fits within the parameters of a livable level. Really applaud the way that you've taken these comments to heart and put it on paper. I also agree with our chair that more information. Whether that means we break this up into a segmented vote and continue. That means perhaps we continue the entire thing. It's up to you, but I think that not having a complete drawing packet, very difficult thing as a commissioner to not have with one for final. But I think we're really close. I think I can understand the sensitivity. What's happening with the structure, lighting the building. I think it's super close. And I think
I'll go through a couple things. So variances, I think those are fine. So I support those. The building situation, I think this is a vastly underutilized site as it is. I struggle with a loss of a building a lot. I think if this was a higher quality building, this would be a very different conversation. But I think you've done enough documentation to demonstrate really the issues that are there. Bring the site to better use. I think that folks living here on the site is very important. I think having density area of Columbus is very important. So I support that. I still struggle with the facade. And I'll say it's not the rear part of the building, it's the front part. So I would just continue to ask to communicate how we're responding to the adjacent comment. But that's, I think, the biggest thing I would say. We need a site plan that's clear. So that's the landscape architect. We get full complete site plans with plant call outs, material call outs. We just have to have that. So same comment with the architectural documentation. We need it all the way through, need to understand sidewalks, what you all are building as part of your project versus what might be something else. So just want to understand all of that. Are you building new curbs, tree lawns, street trees? Don't know, I'm just asking the question, so it's just not documented.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say, from our perspective, we got a property owner who's saying, how many meetings are you guys gonna go to? We got a client who's saying, how many times do I have to revise this? I would love the idea of being able to break this down potentially.
I don't think you're hearing much in the way of revision. I think we're hearing, show us the package that reflects the commitments that are coordinated. That actually puts the design that you proposed in a much more technical format.
Would there be a way to almost break down a vote as far as maybe demolition and passing or something as far as, and then, hey, come back as far as detail? I don't know if you've done something like that before. That's,
We,
Like the drawings.
and we need to, we don't,
So we don't vote on conceptual, we get the applicant a model. I don't know. So I think there's enough in this conceptual package to potentially. My recommendation on approval.
Right.
Don't know that I feel comfortable advancing the demolition request until we have. I think there may be members of this commission that are on the topic. It's just, I don't think. Not like the barn structure we dealt with on Long Street that
Just that-
required an emergency demolition because of a lot of various code issues and being notified. Very scenario, when we had other demolitions that would be applicant made the very. Here I am, here's my one committing to do this, the next step.
Right. ready.
I'd like to. As a commission.
Be fine. It's approved.
I just think there's too much, there's a, when I look at the other applicants that have come in here with big projects. Talking to us for Jobury Park, it had magnificent detail and that
Right.
was. Well, there are some changes I've heard, I mean, for example. That brought up a landscape plan, it truly gives all the species, that's no different than a single family homeowner that we've had in here before, just. A real landscape plan that called out species of the trees, that's a basic requirement.
That was one of the cases
Right,
today, yeah, but
right, was more,
Or we had a conceptual review before you on the front porch, and it had technical profiles. How even the orange sign was going to be blocked and framed, so we do have.
I would support the.
What is that? Advancing the variance case forward. I think actually we saw it on a different timeline. Probably architecture and other things are still.
well, I don't know if it's a matter of when, but what the client's willing to commit to, honestly. I mean, if there's any way, to, I guess, give some assurance as far as we support tile massing the height or something that we can take back and just say, hey, we're officially getting somewhere. You have the green light to finish, really 100% as far as this, and this, because that's frankly, that's been the exchange right now is, hey, we're spinning in circles, we got nothing, and we got to do whatever plans as far as this. And any way to give that, I'm just going off the instructions I've got. If there's any way to kind of get the wheel turning a little bit beyond just the variance, that would be appreciated. Otherwise, I don't know if we're gonna be able to.
Like,
I've been on your side of the
Try.
table too.
Yeah.
so
not letting me detail until we've got some sort of agreement. Put it through here, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I said,
You have to be a
I'm
good
willing to do this
as well, you have to read the audience. So I think
Yeah.
you got a pretty good idea about what's going to.
I do.
Yeah.
Trust me, we do.
I understand you have to sell that then, but the same as.
Yes, there's only two commitments.
Yeah, I guess, and I believe one hasn't been here for 3 months or so, we don't set of questions coming, so. It's what it is, yeah.
Is there value, and this is a complete kind of specifications?
It's very out there.
Very fun reading, small things. I don't like that.
These guys.
Right, your feedback from the commission, saying that your support, not support, this is where you're at. For instance, we kind of split.
And yeah, I think we take that action and David, you tell me, it's just, we go back and we say, we might not be back is the
All
only.
these comments are on record, so you'll. get
Yeah.
that in the record, and you can. You're on. The.
So, from the Caser standpoint of demolition. There, it says you must evidence the. That as it goes forward, but what we can't do is create a scenario where the death happens and nothing ever replaces.
Particularly with your last comment, it may.
Reason being is, we just don't know if the next person who, if you didn't go forward, says, no, I'd like to restore or propose reusing this chalet building. And it's a whole different ballgame that then ends up happening.
Demolition conditional upon us coming back with all that we've requested. I'm just trying to figure out what we can bring back. I think at this point, it's just, we'll do the variance. Go out there and That's all we can really do.
I think you heard support, you heard.
You're okay.
I'll take the brunt on it.
You're gonna take the.
You could. Other packages. Projects.
Probably roll out the drawings from the Topiary Park project. From this commission. Ultimately, it went through this same exact process. Of course, we didn't have a demolition involved. I don't even think that's the issue here at hand. It's getting the documentation. There are still a handful of issues that may need found based on other commissioners. All of us may vote the same way. You don't need a unanimous decision. I can't guarantee what the outcome will be. Several of us have said that we've made progress though towards a very positive step or direction.
After 3116. That's redemption. Part of the bigger package, which you've done very well with, seeks an entire plan submitted. As very definite plans for reuse of the site, evidence of a commitment for funding, which you've done a really great job of that. One thing we may need to touch on would be timeframe for the project's initiation, development, completion. And I know
They provided that,
the core submission of the project. So as long as that email is evidence.
Yeah, it was.
And assessing the efforts of these plans and how that listed project now turns into this with the full set of the executed plans for reuse. So it's, as far as the city code 316.14 standards, very close, one of the smaller details. I think we move on to variances. We table the other two. Get your drawings. Table the whole thing.
Take option A.
For application COA 2500675, 1036 South Front Street. I would like to note that there will be 3 sub sections to this. Letter A is recommending the 3 distinct requests for variances as listed. COA 2500675 Front Street. B and C will be
Of that, for clarity.
Is be the demolition and see the project.
demolition. C would be
Second, further discussion.
Is there anything for any further construction, just the
Missing, like, what is the brick detail? Like, what is the masonry detail? I mean, first section cuts through some things with like a real landscape site, a coordinated site plan that just wasn't hand. I love the hand stuff.
You know.
Legal details,
Um,
details.
Getting the
Question
sidewalk.
about- Yeah, so some of that stuff is off our property, it's right away. So
That's
how do you want us to approach
subject to city approval notice.
What you're doing as part of your project and what you're not. So that's a question that,
A right-of-way improvement, I understand is a drawing approval process, but
Right.
you're committing to go do that subject to a drawing approval, great. That's.
Portions of it right away.
Right. All those in favor to continue, say aye. Extension passes, those two portions are.
Yeah, we need it.
You should read the.
Some of them were taken.
Thank you. Item for new businesses this evening, which is the historic common staff approval list checking.
The check-in, you have that staff approval list approved, supported by the commissions last year, and so since it's been a year, going wrong, anything going right, et cetera, just.
We have that test case for 1406 Brandon.
I think it's actually pretty due time to just report back to the department. A lot of people have said the roof shingles are, no longer, a lot of the brand and model manufacturing specs have been just. So that we can help you continue to do your staff approvals, but when half of the list is not available anymore, that's a problem.
Oh, I wonder if some of the sales reps. How to do all that kind of stuff, and, so it. Might be just a matter of sort of updating and they put together. And we may want to look at some of the test cases done and said, okay. I'm gonna difference between these two, Larry.
I actually liked that choice for that property better.
Yes, I agree.
Cases have been
Yes.
on modern buildings and some other things. Something or other that resembled, we've done a number of them, some. Also done some test case. So. Some of those windows, especially the number of test cases on that sort of,
Apply.
yeah. But
And somebody could argue if they're on the pre-approved list, I can use them on my account.
We're in the pre-approved.
you think,
We're in the list to be-
yeah, but they. But they could
Those
never,
basement windows, you are right though.
they could never match the volumes of stuff. I mean, you know, you look at it and go, well, this doesn't.
Something you would like to see listed perhaps or.
Good question. Part of what we did when we created this list is looking at items that were very commonly moved to staff approval by various. Everything has jumped out as being an issue so far, with being the staff. A lot of them were already being staff approved already, and they're very straightforward. That's part of the nature.
I think we did a good job of putting stuff too.
And you handle it well. We
And I
appreciate
was
it.
looking to, I've never seen this list before. Because we didn't do the BBC. I was looking for this.
Entered garage that we kind of have the same.
Garage for the first kind of go around for the list, and some Victorian did have it at the time. I think we had taken off, at least for the first go around, because it just came up that it was so rare that we were able to staff improve. There's always
When all commissions have their meetings.
rare to have someone out the gate and have a garage kind of sail through exactly with the requirements. It always seems to be like a little tweaking. But it's still something I can bring back to note, like.
Our standard one. Yeah, we did the same one over and over and over and over again, but I can see why.
So I think what we're hearing is things. I think one of the signs that may have.
I would actually like to recommend that idea of cement product siding is no longer a test. Hardy siding is a standard, and I have more friends in the industry who do restoration work who just say finding good, clear, clean cut lumber that's gonna like do great stuff for siding is just as much of it. And I think generally most historic review boards around the country have been using cement siding related products for 5/4 trims and everything else. So I think that that's just a modern material that needs to be visited. Siding.
Right, not the, siding that.
No, correct. But lap siding, 5/4 trim and, availability of good or wood lumber is still an issue.
And think of things further down, so we don't have to go down. We just need to make sure to check it.
Having that, now we have a motion to adjourn for a second. Having a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Then the motion passes, meeting closed at 6:12 PM.